I wanted to title this video XRP 650% pump, but I knew that that would be a little bit too much for some folks to handle, and I didn't want to trigger anybody. Even though this is a data point that everybody can confirm for themselves of how much XRP swung from the pre-election price to the July 2025 high, $3.66. And now that the year 2025 is ending, we can take a step back and really understand how these events played out and the price action leading up to them, following them, and what we can expect leading up to this Clarity Act passing in 2026. And so the whole premise of today's video, which I'm going to make quick, short, and to the point, is do not tune out, do not check out, do not think that there's nothing for you to do until the Clarity Act and laws are passed, because we already moved 600% without any laws being set in place. So I'm warning you today, titling this video XRP Critical Warning, because we will absolutely see a run-up for XRP before the Clarity Act is passed. I don't know what these people are talking about. Maybe they just don't understand the basics of markets and how we always see buy the rumor, sell the news on these events that people know are coming up. By the time the president signs it into law, we will have already made a big move. And that's what I don't want people to miss. Now is the opportunity to be getting into these assets that you believe will appreciate the most running up to the Clarity Act passing, and then in that new era of laws being passed, utility coming in, and institutions will finally use XRP and other cryptos at scale. Because I see a lot of people asking, well, XRP already has clarity. Why aren't they using it now? Why do we need to wait for laws to pass? Because the institutions know XRP is not a security, yes, but they don't know the rules of the road for how they can use this technology. And this was echoed across the room at the Ripple Swell conference by all of the banks and institutions that were in that room, that they've researched it, they're testing it, but until they get the rules of the road, they can't take it to scale. Now, some folks are, waiting here for a $100 XRP or very big targets, right? And I don't think that that's coming before the Clarity Act gets passed. Let me be very, very clear about that. And I don't even necessarily think that we'll see another 600% pump before the Clarity Act gets passed, right? But we're not going to those targets until these institutions can use this technology at scale. But don't get left behind here in the meantime. Now, speaking of the Clarity Act, El Nortero with the scoop. At MoonPay's New York office today, Senator Mark Warner told me that getting a crypto market structure markup done before Christmas break will be very hard because they are still waiting on the White House language for two major pieces of the bill, ethics and quorum. And this is the quote, "At some point, our Republican colleagues are going to have to decide if this is a White House bill or a congressional call," he said. Warner added that his staff and their Republican counterparts are meeting every day for hours and that a bill will get done, but they need to get it right. So there's Senator Warner at MoonPay offices in New York City this morning. So if you had on your Christmas list Clarity Act, that's not going to be delivered by Santa or by anybody else, unfortunately. But what does that mean? It means that you just have more of an opportunity here to scoop up before we get that pre-Clarity Act pump, which is right around the corner. Now, like I said, we will absolutely see a run-up in XRP price before the Clarity Act pass, and we already have. See, the reason why I wanted to title this video XRP 650% pump is because it's a better, title. It's a little bit better clickbait. But it's actually backed up by data. This is not something I'm just throwing out there. Anytime I put it in the title or the thumbnail, I back it up with data and real analysis. And I don't do this just for views, just so I can make my YouTube check. We do this because we want to help regular people understand the opportunity at hand. I want the regular common folk like myself to win. I'm no guru. I'm a regular person from a blue-collar background. But years of stacking fundamental assets like XRP and silver has paid off tremendously. How could a doofus moron like myself be outperforming Wall Street? Our defensive measures like silver up 6 times more than the S&P 500 this year alone. XRP, well, 650%. Portions of my XRP bag are up 500 to 1,000%. And many of you are in the same boat. And so what we're looking at here is where XRP was trading at before the election in the run-up that it had. This is why I think it is dangerous for people to be giving advice to just tune out of crypto until the Clarity Act gets passed. You will be left behind, or you're just going to have much smaller bags. Either you're just not going to get in because we'll run up and you'll say, oh, it's too late, I missed the opportunity. Or you'll come in late and then, whether you have $1,000 to invest or $1 million to invest, your bag's going to be that much smaller because we're already going to have made our move. I really want to get this point across. Let's go to the chart and let's break down this timeline of events, the run-ups, the buy the rumors, the sell the news that we watched take place over the past year. So anybody can go verify this data point. This is 100% true that XRP swung 650% just at the end of October into the beginning of November, right before the election. Then what happened? We realized President Trump was coming back for a second term. And the run-up between November 5th, when the election took place, and January, right, went all the way up here to $3.40. This was just a few days before President Trump took office again. So that was basically the, buy the rumor, sell the news on Trump actually getting into office. And that move alone was substantial. That was a 600% swing just before President Trump even took office. Now, when President Trump came into office, then we get this big sell-off. And XRP comes back down to $1.75. And then it did run back up above, to about $3. And it consolidated through the first half this year until we got the April tariffs. And then that took us to the yearly lows of 2025 of $1.60. So that was your lowest point for XRP this year. I don't include the 1010 liquidation event. Even on the Coinbase chart, it only went down to $1.77 on the liquidation event of 1010. Okay, but regardless, either way, right? You have this big run up before President Trump takes office. By the time he actually gets inaugurated back into the Oval Office, huge sell-off. Okay, so then we chop sideways and we get this sell-off on the tariffs. Well, then we get this run up to $3.66. Now, we sit here in December of 2025, and now I can say, we can zoom out, and we can really see that this rally up to $3.66 in July was in anticipation of the case ending and the ETFs going live. That was the buy the rumor, sell the news on the case ending and the ETFs going live. Remember, I have the mandate right here. I've explained this. Why was the 2025 pump delayed? Why did we not get, $8 to $10 or a $20 XRP this year? Because this case was delayed till August. But just the month before was when we topped out at $3.66 in anticipation of the case ending and the ETFs going live. But then, right, we get this consolidation and chop that takes us into October when we got the 1010 liquidation event. So that was the buy the rumor on the case ending and the ETFs going live. And then we get this 1010 manipulated, completely coordinated liquidation event. Very dramatic move that wiped out XRP, right? And then when we finally did get the ETFs in November, right? November 13th is right here. Then we got another 30% sell-off like I was warning about. So basically, we already had topped out before the ETFs had gone live back in July, well before November. And then we had been consolidating and moving back down. And then when the ETF finally went live, November 13th, Canary Capital, then we got an even deeper sell-off of 30%. And the reason why we didn't see as much of a buy the rumor directly leading up to the ETF going live is because the government was shut down and nobody really knew whether or not these ETFs were going to go live, right? The Solana HBAR Litecoin ETFs went live out of the blue, and then the XRP went live out of the blue. And there really was only like a week or so time frame where people actually realized, oh crap, the XRP ETFs are about to go live. So there wasn't the run up like we had from November to January where folks knew, okay, President Trump's coming in, pro-crypto Congress just got elected, and we ran for 2.5 months. Well, with only a week or two, of real public knowledge that the ETFs were going to go live, that's why you didn't get a big run up directly leading before that ETF went live in November 13th. And so then we get this sell-off, right? And last month we come back down on November 21st to about $1.81 for XRP. Well, what's next on the timeline? What's next on the timeline is the Clarity Act. But history shows us just over the past year that you're going to see a run-up before that Clarity Act gets passed. And this is why I say, now's not the time. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to watch XRP YouTube all day. I'm not saying you need to watch crypto content 24/7, but I'm saying now's the time to make your move. Now's not the time to sit back and say, okay, I got till next year. I can tune out, check out. There's nothing to do for me. Nothing to do till the Clarity Act gets passed. You will be left behind. Your bags are going to be significantly smaller. And I'm speaking with such urgency so I can get this point across to folks. I believe this in my heart, and we've seen this play out. This is just history repeating. And yet some folks are selling off their XRP. In the month of November, we had 800 million of outflows on centralized exchanges. What a terrible mistake. I got people saying, if XRP doesn't do something by the end of the year, I'm selling. No, this is the time to be moving in. I understand the economy's terrible. I understand inflation hasn't gone away. I understand we have more job layoffs than we did back during the Great Recession. I understand the blood in the streets out there. But this is the fight that we're in. You have to make your move now before we run up another 200, 300%. And XRP's already made its move before the Clarity Act passes. People are going to get left behind. And I think it's very dangerous, some of the advice that is being shared out there, to just forget about crypto, check out until the Clarity Act gets passed. Nothing's going to happen until laws get signed. We already swung 650%. Are you forgetting about what took place last year? Dangerous advice being shared out there. So be careful. Now, with that being said, I did want to let everybody know you have until April 15th, 2026 to fund your IRA for 2025. But personally, I would be doing it sooner rather than later, considering the breakout that we are on the verge of. As I just explained in this video, you want to maximize your contribution. I'd be making it when the lows have already been set. We're already consolidating here right above $2, and this thing's getting ready to rip again. So go to iTrust Capital. We're linked up at the top of the description. Use my link to get your $100 funding bonus and take advantage of these prices that we're getting right now, because they're not going to stick around for much longer. Please help me out by liking this video, sharing it out far and wide, and all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.